Hello ARMY! Welcome back to our channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the latest BTS updates. Today, February 18th, 2026, is a very special day for all ARMY around the world. Yup, today is J-Hope's birthday, or Young Hoseok, who is now 32 years old. And in the midst of all the celebrations going viral on social media, there's one moment that made us all emotional. ParkJimin, J-Hope's best friend and soulmate, just revealed something very personal about Hobi. Curious? Let's dive deep into this. So here's the story. In an interview conducted before J-Hope's birthday, Jimin sat down casually, but his eyes immediately lit up when Hoseok's name was mentioned. Those of you who've been following BTS from the beginning definitely know that Jimin and J-Hope have incredible chemistry. They're not just group mates, they're like brothers who understand each other completely. Well, Jimin finally opened up about one thing he admires most about J-Hope. And you know what? The answer made us all cry. Jimin said that the one thing he admires most about J-Hope is Hobi's ability to put other people's happiness above his own suffering. Imagine ARMY. J-Hope goes through his own difficult times, but he always prioritizes the struggles faced by other members over his own burdens. If you think this is just sweet talk, wait a minute. Jimin gave concrete examples that made us understand even more who J-Hope really is. He talked about their early debut days. Don't you remember how hard BTS's struggle was at the beginning of their career? Well, during those times, J-Hope was always the first person to wake up at the dorm to make sure all members woke up on time for practice. Imagine, Hobi would knock on their room doors one by one with a cheerful voice that sometimes annoyed them in the morning, but now has become the memory they miss the most. Jimin laughed a little when he remembered the first time he met J-Hope. At that time, he was still sound asleep, and suddenly Hobi woke him up in a very J-Hope way, full of energy and excessive enthusiasm. Jimin initially thought he wouldn't be able to deal with someone like this because J-Hope was more senior than him. But as time went by, Jimin actually realized that this energy was what kept them all going on the hardest days. What impressed Jimin the most is J-Hope's ability to read every member's mood without having to ask. Guys, this is a skill that very few people have. J-Hope has extraordinary sensitivity to other people's feelings. When there's a member who's feeling down or sad, J-Hope will be the first person to notice, even if that person is trying to hide their feelings. Jimin admitted there were many moments when he felt down. Whether it was from exhaustion, due to an incredibly packed schedule, pressure from high public expectations, or even from criticism he directed at himself. And in times like that, J-Hope always knew when to give space and when to come closer. This isn't easy, ARMY. It takes deep understanding of someone to be able to do this. Now, there's one story that Jimin shared that really made us all cry. This happened when they were in preparation mode for one of their biggest comebacks. The pressure at that time was very high, the choreography was super complicated, and Jimin felt he wasn't good enough. He spent hours and hours in the practice room alone, trying to perfect every movement until his body felt like it was going to break down. Jimin didn't tell anyone about this internal struggle. He just kept practicing and practicing, hoping he could reach the standard he set for himself. But J-Hope knew. Somehow, Hobi always knew when something was wrong. One night, when Jimin was really exhausted and almost crying from frustration, J-Hope entered the practice room silently. He didn't immediately ask what was wrong or try to give advice. He just sat on the floor next to Jimin, keeping him company in silence. This is so powerful, guys. Sometimes someone's presence means more than 1,000 words. After a while, J-Hope started talking, but not about dance or about how great Jimin had to be. He talked about simple things that made them laugh, about funny memories from their trainee days, about silly mistakes they had made on stage, about how they used to be so nervous every time they performed even in front of a small audience. J-Hope made Jimin laugh through his tears, and slowly, the burden Jimin felt became a little lighter. What made that moment so special for Jimin was when he realized that that night, J-Hope was actually also going through his own problems. Hobi was struggling with his own lyrics. He had a tight deadline to finish his composition, and he himself was also exhausted from the same packed schedule as the other members. But instead of focusing on his own problems, J-Hope chose to be with Jimin, making sure his friend was okay first. ARMY, just imagine. This isn't about J-Hope not having problems or having a perfect life. This is about someone who has his own problems, but can still set aside time and energy for others. That was the moment when Jimin truly understood the depth of J-Hope's character. From that moment on, he knew that he had someone who would always be there for him, no matter how difficult the situation. Jimin also talked about how J-Hope has been a light in their darkest times as a group. You've probably heard the quote from J-Hope saying he felt like he was in a dark world, and Jimin was his light, right? Well, Jimin humbly said that actually J-Hope is the one who's been the light for all of them. When BTS feels frustrated or exhausted, J-Hope is the person who gives them the strength they need to keep going. One of the most concrete examples of J-Hope's care is when Jimin flew to Chicago to support J-Hope's solo performance at Lollapalooza last year. Even though Jimin had his own super packed schedule, he didn't hesitate to make the long journey just to be there for Hobi. Don't you remember how emotional that moment was? What's interesting is what J-Hope said after that show. In the behind-the-scenes documentary, J-Hope revealed that Jimin's presence really changed everything for him. He said he usually feels a bit nervous before performing because it helps him perform better. But that day, since Jimin arrived, all his burdens disappeared like magic. J-Hope kept telling Jimin how relieved he was because of Jimin's presence there. But Jimin saw this from a different perspective. He said that even though he flew to Chicago to support J-Hope, actually Hobi had done the same thing for him many times over throughout their career. Every time Jimin performed solo, every time he was nervous, every time he doubted himself, J-Hope was always there, both physically and in spirit, giving the support Jimin needed. So for Jimin, flying to Chicago wasn't a big sacrifice. It was just a small way to repay everything J-Hope had done for him over the years. Another aspect that Jimin greatly admires about J-Hope is his passion and dedication to art, especially in dance and music. As part of 3J along with Jungkook, J-Hope and Jimin share responsibility in BTS's choreography and dance. Jimin admitted that J-Hope has an extraordinary work ethic. J-Hope's motto is if you don't work hard, there won't be good results, and he really lives according to that principle. What makes Jimin admire him is how J-Hope is never satisfied with what he has achieved. Even though he's already one of the best dancers in the K-pop industry, even though he's already recognized internationally, J-Hope still keeps learning, keeps developing, keeps looking for ways to be better. He spends hours and hours in the practice studio, not just to make sure his movements are perfect, but also to help other members perfect their movements. J-Hope is the main dance instructor in BTS, and his role in shaping BTS's performance identity cannot be underestimated. Jimin told how J-Hope would still stay in the practice room even after everyone else had gone home. He would watch recordings of their videos over and over, noting every small mistake, every imperfect synchronization, and then in the next practice, he would give constructive feedback to everyone. What's amazing is the way J-Hope delivers that feedback. He never criticizes in a way that makes people feel bad about themselves. Instead, he always finds a way to make criticism sound like encouragement, like a positive challenge that motivates people to be better. This is a very high-level communication skill, guys. Jimin also admires how J-Hope can balance various aspects of his life. On one hand, he's a performer who's very serious about his craft. On the other hand, he's someone who really cares about the well-being of people around him. He's a talented music producer, but he's also someone who never forgets to call his mother regularly. J-Hope once said in an interview that his mother's happiness is his happiness, and his mother's laughter is his laughter. This shows how family-oriented J-Hope really is, and how the values instilled by his family shaped who he is today. One of J-Hope's traditions that Jimin admires most is J-Hope's commitment to philanthropy. Don't you remember last year on his 31st birthday, J-Hope donated 200 million won to Seoul Asan Medical Center? That's about 2.1 billion rupiah, guys. What's even more impressive, he announced that starting that year, he would donate to that medical facility every year on his birthday. In his statement, J-Hope said he hopes this donation can help the children who are suffering now. He sincerely hopes children can dream of a healthy and hopeful future. For Jimin, this is a perfect example of J-Hope's character. Someone who, even on his own special day, still thinks about how he can make a difference in other people's lives. Jimin explained that J-Hope has a very positive life philosophy. Even though he was given the name J-Hope, which literally means hope, he really lives up to that name in every aspect of his life. He's someone who always sees the bright side of every situation, who always believes things will get better, who always finds a reason to smile even in the midst of difficulties. But Jimin emphasized that this doesn't mean J-Hope never experiences difficult times or never feels down. On the contrary, J-Hope experiences the same struggles as everyone else. He just chooses not to let those struggles define him or negatively affect the people around him. And this is a conscious choice, guys. This isn't something that happens automatically. There's a moment that Jimin shared that really illustrates the essence of what he admires about J-Hope. One time, after a very exhausting concert, all the members returned to the hotel in a super exhausted state. They could barely walk, their bodies hurt, and all they wanted was sleep. But when they arrived at the hotel, there was a problem with their rooms. Some members didn't get the rooms they were supposed to, and the situation became a bit chaotic. Everyone was tired, some started showing their frustration, and the atmosphere became quite tense. You can probably imagine how stressful that situation was, right? In the midst of that situation, J-Hope took the initiative. With a face that clearly showed the same exhaustion as everyone else, he started talking to the hotel staff, trying to solve the problem. But what impressed Jimin was how J-Hope did it. Even though he was tired, he remained polite, kept smiling, and remained patient. He didn't show his frustration or annoyance, even though he had every reason to do so. After the situation was resolved and everyone finally got their rooms, J-Hope only then admitted that he was actually very tired and frustrated with the situation. But he chose not to show it because he knew if he showed his emotions, it would make the situation worse for everyone. That's what Jimin always admires about J-Hope, his ability to put the needs of the group, the needs of others, above his own desires or personal comfort. This doesn't mean J-Hope is someone who has no boundaries or who never takes care of himself. On the contrary, J-Hope is very aware of his mental and physical health, and he knows when he needs to take time for himself. But in critical moments, when the group needs someone to step up and be the stabilizing force, J-Hope is always the person who does that without being asked. Jimin also talked about how their relationship has evolved over the years. They're not just group mates or work friends, they're family in the truest sense. They've shared rooms for years, they know each other's bad habits, they know what makes each other laugh, what makes them sad, what motivates them, and what scares them. They've been through so much together, from the early days when they were still trainees who didn't know if they would succeed, to today when they're one of the biggest groups in the world. And through all that journey, J-Hope has always been consistent. He's always been the person you can rely on, the person who gives strength to others, the person who makes sure no one is left behind. Other members also acknowledge this quality in J-Hope. RM once said that J-Hope is someone who brightens the atmosphere wherever he is. V said when BTS feels frustrated or exhausted, J-Hope gives them the strength they need. Jungkook sees J-Hope as someone with a clear mind who's able to see what he wants and then achieve it. These are testimonies from people who know J-Hope best, who have spent almost every day with him for more than a decade. When asked what he wanted to say to J-Hope on his birthday, Jimin became very emotional. With teary eyes, he said he's grateful to J-Hope for being the person he's needed all these years. For every moment when Hobi was there for him, for every time Hobi made him laugh when he wanted to cry, for every time Hobi believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. Jimin said without J-Hope, their journey would have been much harder, if not impossible. J-Hope is the glue that holds them all together. He's the heart of this group, and Jimin feels so lucky to have someone like that in his life. Guys, this is really touching. If you watch the interview video, you can see how sincere and genuine Jimin was when saying this. Jimin also expressed his hopes for this year and the years to come. With BTS's comeback coming on March 20th, 2026, and the planned world tour, Jimin promised he will continue to support J-Hope the same way Hobi has supported him all this time. He said he wants to make sure J-Hope also feels the same love and support that Hobi gives to others. Because even though J-Hope seems like someone who's always strong, who's always positive, who's always there for others, he's also a human who needs support and love from the people he cares about. And in this 32nd year, Jimin wants to make sure J-Hope knows how much he's appreciated, how much he's loved, and how important he is to all of them. At the end of the interview, Jimin closed with a very touching message. He said if he had to choose one word to describe J-Hope, that word would be kindness. Not just kindness in a superficial sense, but deep, genuine, consistent kindness. kindness that comes from a sincere place within someone's heart that doesn't expect anything in return, that's given freely because that's who that person truly is. And that is Young Hoseok, J-Hope, Hobi, friend, brother, and family to Jimin and the other BTS members. ARMY, this really makes us realize how lucky we are to have idols like BTS. They're not just talented, they also have beautiful hearts and care for each other in a very genuine way. Today, as J-Hope celebrates his 32nd birthday, Jimin's words resonate with millions of ARMY around the world who also see the same quality in J-Hope. We see someone who gives light to others, who makes the world a slightly better place just with his presence. And guys, this is also a reminder for all of us. We can learn from J-Hope about how important it is to care about others, to be someone who can be relied on, to stay positive even when going through difficult times. We don't have to be superstars to make a difference. Sometimes, just by being there for the people we love, by listening to them, by giving them the support they need, we've already made a very big difference. Before we end this video, let's all wish J-Hope a happy birthday. Drop your wishes in the comments section, ARMY. And don't forget to share this video with fellow ARMY so they can also know how special this moment is. Oh yeah, guys, don't forget that BTS's comeback is just around the corner. March 20th, 2026, we're going to get a new album from them. This is their first comeback after all members completed military service, so you can imagine how epic this is going to be. Make sure you're prepared, ARMY. For those of you who are new to the fandom, or maybe just getting to know BTS, this is a perfect time to start exploring more about them. They're not just about the music, they're about the message, about the connection, about the love and support they give not only to fans but also to each other. And for those of you who've been ARMY for a long time, you definitely understand how lucky we are to witness their journey. From a group that wasn't recognized early in their career, to now being a global phenomenon that has changed the music industry forever. And behind all that success, there are 7 people who are genuine, who are humble, who remain grounded even though they've reached an extraordinary level. J-Hope is one perfect example of that. Even though he's become one of the richest and most influential artists in South Korea, he's still Young Hoseok from Gwangju who cares about his mother, who donates for sick children, who's always there for his friends. He hasn't changed because of fame or money. He remains himself, and that's what we admire most about him. So guys, once again, happy birthday, J-Hope. Thank you for being our sunshine. Thank you for being our hope. Thank you for showing us how to be a good person in a world that's not always kind. We love you so much, Hobi. And for all of you watching this video, thank you for staying until the end. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss our next videos about BTS and other K-pop updates. See you in the next video, ARMY. Borahi.